So welcome today. So for those that are listening and watching, I've got Marillo Santos. He is the owner, the operator, the guru, the president of Boarding Pass Coffee. Really excited to have you here, Marillo. You started this business like kind of in your garage. I want them to hear the story. It's such a great story. And I also want our listeners and viewers today to hear, some of the challenges that you've had. But let's back up a second. Tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself, and then I'll ask you some questions about the company, and then we'll get right into it.
Right. Thank you, Chris. So I'm originally from Brazil, born and raised in Brazil. I moved here to US 4.5 years ago. And my background is business. I went to college in Brazil, and then when I moved here in US, I did my MBA at Georgia Tech. So I've always been an entrepreneur in Brazil. I've created 7 companies before Boarding Pass Coffee. My first one, I founded with a friend from college a year before we graduated. Company still running till today, and then we open up 6 other companies, which 3 of those are still running, and the other we either terminated or sold. And now I'm here with Boarding Pass Coffee. We created a company 2.5 years ago. So if you do the math, it will be right when the pandemic started.
Yeah, that's right. And you had an idea of how you wanted to start this company from the very beginning, right? And I think without ruining it for those listeners and viewers, traditionally when we get into like opening our business, we think we need brick and mortar. We think that we need like a location. You need an office. You need a place to put all the equipment and to do all the things that you needed to do. So it sounds like you were on that path to open.
That was exactly my plan. That was exactly what I was picturing when I thought about opening up Boarding Pass Coffee, having everything that you just listed and more, of course. But with like everything in life, you can always plan. But you should always have plan B, C, and D if possible. And that, when we were first looking to open up the spaces, looking for spaces to lease, that was January 2020. We were actually, discussing the lease terms for 3 locations just to see which one we would pick in the end. And when we were very further deep on the discussions and negotiations, one of them, we started hearing that something was happening in Asia, in China, more precisely. Something was going on. Those news that, and everything, every news that comes from China, it always comes very filtered. So we didn't know a lot, much about it. But when it hit Italy, Europe, and then the news start coming with much less filter. And we learned that this disease, COVID-19, was, hitting and spreading very fast and all that. And countries were talking about doing lockdowns and shutting everything down. We decided not to go any further with the lease negotiation because we didn't know what could happen, right? And the lease terms that we were talking about, the shorter one was 36 months. And it was hard for me to swallow, going on a fixed cost of a brick and mortar space. 36 months was, with this thing that we didn't know back then what exactly was and how long we would last. So we decided not to put on hold this idea of having a brick and mortar and everything that you listed, but I still wanted to, keep moving forward with the idea of opening the company and having Boarding Pass Coffee operating in a short amount of time. And then that was the fun part.
So yeah, I love what you said, Murilo. Like you said, okay, you're starting with a plan A because listen, solo entrepreneurs, we get this bug and we say, okay, we're going to do it no matter what, come hell or high water, right? We're going to make it happen. And we get an idea, and we can't shake it. Right. And so you got the idea that, hey, even though here's COVID-19, the pandemic is happening. Either you're not willing at that point to go into a 36-month lease, right? And then, but you still are, you go to, I love what you said. You said, listen, if you might want to you make a plan A, but you also better have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. So how far along did we get into that planning stage where you decided that this is how, you were going to launch the company? What did that look like?
I think even if you don't have a plan B or C or D, I think that most important for me is you got to be willing to be flexible enough and not just married to one idea, right? Because I've talked throughout my years of being an entrepreneur, and I've talked to a lot of friends that work for corporations. They always like, oh, I want to, I wish I had the gut to, start doing my own thing and all that. And some of them come with ideas. They're pretty good. They want to discuss about it. They're like, oh, that's a really good idea. And then I start doing my, devil's advocate. Like, what if this, what if that, what if, etc. And just to see like how married and how, focused they are in just that idea. Because you got to be willing to adapt and be flexible. Otherwise, there's a pandemic.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yep.
What you going to do?
That's right.
If my idea of starting Boarding Pass Coffee was I must have a brick and mortar, and that's how I have to start it. I would not have started Boarding Pass Coffee, because how would I open a brick and mortar in April 2020 with no one on street, no one, going out for shopping, nothing. It would be just like crazy. And that's like, and of course I didn't have the plan B and C drawn. I had the plan A, but I was willing to, okay, I know I'm going to do it. I want to do it. I have this idea. It might be temporary, the pandemic, COVID-19 or not, but I'm going to adapt.
That's right.
I think with the pandemic, there was another thing that happened. With pandemic, of course, people were not going on street to buy stuff or in stores because everyone's staying at home and working remote. But on the other hand, people were staying at home, not spending as much, going out for dinners and lunch. Some people were starting to, oh, wait, I have this a lot of time, free time in my hand, and I love coffee. Why am I still drinking Folgers at home? Why am I still drinking Maxwell House? Why am I still drinking even Starbucks at home? There must be something better out there. And that's where we pivot. I wouldn't say pivot, but that's where we adapt a little bit the idea of Boarding Pass Coffee, trying to get those people that were willing to, learn more a little bit about coffee, were willing to spend a little bit more about in their, daily coffee, just to treat themselves.
Yeah, right. That's right. So let's talk about differences. I'm glad we're talking about this, because then you started. And if I have this right, like you
February 2020, the decision was made. Okay, we're not releasing a space that makes no sense. We don't know what's going on. What do I do now? Okay, well, I'm fortunate enough to live in a good size house, and we had the basement that was half of the basement unfinished. So I had this idea. Oh, well, I have space, right?
Right.
What do I need to start a company? I need space, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I need a website, and I need the machine to roast coffee. And then I can start. That's exactly how it happens. I hired a contractor, talked to him. He came here, explained my idea, what I wanted to do. We find out all the regulations that we need for me to be able to start roasting coffee in my place and be legal as a company, right? We did everything that was required for me to start the company at home. We renovated the basement, everything that was required. I bought the machine, installed the machine, and start roasting. We had the website running.
Now, when we talk about this machine, like we're not talking about like just a little, a little coffee roaster. I mean, we're talking about like the length of that is like, just explain that to some of the listeners or viewers.
It's a commercial, it's an industrial commercial coffee roaster. So it's a production coffee roaster.
Mm-hmm.
To say that back then, when I was still roasting in my basement, if you came to my neighborhood, just to visit a friend, maybe you would smell some, strong smell of coffee throughout my neyborhood because I was roasting all the time. Yep. And, it's an industrial machine. So it does make, it's an industrial machine.
It's awesome. And so you started roasting and then you started selling through the website, correct?
Through the website, yeah. So we mostly online
and friends. I got
and friends, right. And yes, and we are very glad with all friends that we have. They all pushed us and gave us a lot of support at the beginning, and we start selling. That picture is me and my dad there at the farm. And one thing that I have not mentioned yet. I'm from Brazil, but that's not the most important of it. The most important of the company, I think, it's that a lot of the coffees that we roast come from my family's farm in Brazil. So what we're doing is farm to cup, truly farm to cup. We bring the raw beans from my family's farm and we roast it here in US, very fresh as you can have. And we ship to our customers. So that was something that we really wanted to, share the amazing coffee that we grow in Brazil at our family's farm. And it's a special place to me and my family. Me and my wife, we got married at the farm. My kids, I have 3 kids. All my 3 kids, they grew up going to the farm every weekend, running and playing around the coffee fields and all that. So it is a very special place. And we wanted to share that with people here in US as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. So, just shifting gears for a minute, let's talk a little bit about, you talked about, farm to cup. You talked about that you're getting the beans, from the family farm. Let's talk a little bit about the mission of the company. What do you want to have? What do you want to have done now? Like, what are you hoping for? And where are you hoping to take, Boarding Pass Coffee now?
Right. So what I see, I think I'm gonna to answer your question. I think I'm gonna talk a little bit about what's happening in the coffee industry right now, and it has happened in some other industries already. For example, wine industry is very, very developed in, all around the world and US especially. When I talk to someone about wine, usually they know what they want, what they like. Some people, they even know like the regions of the world and type of grapes they like. Beer is the same now. Like, you talk to people, they'll say, "Oh, I like my IPA, I like my, hop or whatever." So people are very willing to learn about new stuff. With coffee, we're still not as developed if you compare to wine and, even whiskey or bourbon and other stuff. But we see now a trend. People are willing to learn and they want to learn more about coffee, and not just, what kind of coffee you drink, light, medium, dark. No, we want to, and we see that there's a trend that people are willing to learn more about. I want this type of beans, this region, this roast level. Like, people are starting to understand that coffee can also be something that they're not just, drink as a mean to get the caffeine, but also that something that they really truly enjoy, just like a wine, whiskey, or, cigars and all that. And with that, my whole goal with the company is to help people learn more about coffee, first of all, but also to learn and also enjoy and appreciate what it goes into a really good cup of coffee. That's my main goal right now, is like teaching people about coffee. That's why we do, and that's one thing that we do a lot. And in fact, I have one today. It's the coffee tastings. So people come to us for about an hour 15 or an hour and a half. And we sit down and we discuss about coffee. We taste 5 different coffees from different regions of the world, different roast levels. And I teach them, and we discuss the whole process from farm to cup, what it takes for a good cup of coffee. Yeah. And with that, of course, there's a lot. I usually tell people it's an uphill battle, right? People are so used to, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, very convenient drive-through. Just, give me my coffee in the morning because I need to function. A lot of people don't think about coffee as something as a pleasure. People think about coffee as, I need coffee to function. I need coffee to start my day. When you talk about wine, for example, it's always, I'm going to have a girls' night out, or I have my anniversary celebration. I have my, birthday. I have a gathering at my house. I'm serving this. So it's always tied into something that it makes you smile. That's my take on, the difference is how we all, or most of us, see, for example, coffee and wine. And what my uphill battle is trying to make people understand that you can also enjoy coffee and have a smile at your face, and not like this grumpy, I need coffee to start my day. No, you can just enjoying this coffee because it has, notes of X and Y and Z, and comes from this region, from this farm that has, only 2 acres, and,
Wow.
it's a father and son, and they do everything themselves, and they only produce 10 bags a year.
Wow.
And it's this amazing coffee. So we're trying. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, that's just awesome. It's just awesome.
So we're trying to bring that to coffee and help people understand that I know, and I do appreciate the caffeine. I do need the caffeine. As I mentioned, I have 3 young kids. So, caffeine gets me going.
That's great.
But I also appreciate coffee in a way that it goes a lot deeper than,
That's great.
Just thinking about coffee as a means to get my caffeine and my body going.
Well, we're going to talk.
So that's
we're going to talk about instant gratification in our society here in a minute. But let's. I guess Brittany Brittany Kirk writes: are there any mistakes or pitfalls you learned in the early days of starting your business?
Yeah. I think a lot of the mistakes I made, from starting corporate till now, it was probably related to my overconfidence because I've started other business before and not really paying attention on the cultural differences. Because of course, as I mentioned, I was born and raised in Brazil. The other companies that I started was in Brazil. And moving here to US, even though we are all, Western societies, let's say, in Brazil and US, we're different, but we're kind of run at the same pace. But there's a lot of differences, like cultural, business differences. And I think a lot of my mistakes that I've made so far, they're probably all related to that. Not really, okay, step back. I'm pretty sure and I'm confident that I know how to do it, but my thought process is in Brazilian culture. Let me, kind of slow down my speed and see and make sure that the way I'm thinking is the way I should be thinking here in US. That's like something I've learned and I'm trying to get better at it. But, I'm not that young anymore. So a lot of my things are just come, kind of astray. And I'm like trying to, kind of be aware of that.
You mentioned culture, Marillo, and there's so much that plays a part in even what we do with Sales Arbiter in the culture of an organization, for example. When we go in and we try and help an organization to grow or to move to that next level, whatever that might look like. And a lot like you, we're putting in, foundational process. You have to pivot quickly sometimes when things aren't working, or you made an assumption and you said, well, I know that this is going to work for this organization because I tried this and it worked in the past, organizations like theirs. And then you find yourself having to pivot quickly. But I think one of the things that you had mentioned even early on, as we started, this podcast was, you have to be flexible. You have to be willing to pivot quickly. You have to be willing to move in a different direction and feel comfortable with that, or as comfortable as you can, with potential change that may or may not be, it may or may not be because of the decisions that you've made. It may be something that's completely outside of what's happening even in your business that's affecting the change that you're going to make. I think that's really a valuable, lesson today.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, another thing that I like to mention is I'm always looking for new opportunities, right? So I'm never only focusing one path. They're all gonna merge up front, but I'm always looking and doing different stuff that is somehow moving, or that the goal is to move the company forward. Mm-hmm. So when I talk to people and explain what I'm doing, some people tell me, "Oh, you're crazy. You're doing too many things at the same time." But then when I explain why am I doing all this stuff, and some things that I'm doing is just like planting the seed right now, and I know that no matter what, it doesn't matter if I water that seed a lot right now, it's not going to flourish, right? Mm-hmm. But I still need to plant the seed right now, because that seed, maybe in 6 months, a year, is going to be one part of the puzzle that I'm building in the future.
That's right.
So when I talk to people like, I'm doing this crazy. Why? Yeah, I'm doing that, but I'm not focused on that seed. I just plant it, water a little bit, let it sit there. Because I know that no matter how I can put like 5 gallons of water, it's not going to flourish.
Right.
Like it's kind of following the nature, right? It takes time. You don't push it. You let it, but you can keep pushing the other, paths that that if you keep pushing, and it will happen.
Right.
But some, you're just planting the seed and kind of waiting to the right time for that puzzle to come up to the
That's great.
to create the whole.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Marillo. When we, as there's solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast, there are, business executives, business owners. So what would you recommend? What are you going to do with Boarding Pass Coffee? Or what are some of your goals to aggressively grow your business in this next year? Maybe you could share just some of your thoughts there.
Yeah. So we have our growth plan. So we're actually right now under construction of our second store in Gainesville, with an estimate of opening end of February, hopefully.
Is that is that your aggressive timetable, or is that the actual timetable?
Yeah. Well, there's
I just saw you rub your.
Yeah, there's a conflict there.
Okay.
I would like to open before the end of February.
Okay.
But I know that the build out is moving.
Yes, good.
We have a lot of the machinery, everything is bought already. So, from my end, everything is good. Now I'm pushing the contractor.
Right. Of course.
Finish. Yeah. But besides that, we have already signed the LOI for the third space, which will be Q3 of 2023 in the Alpharetta area for our third store. And my overall goal is to have in 2 years, starting from last year. So by the end of 2024, from 5 to 6 stores.
That's great. That is great.
Yeah. And then with that, end of 2024, having all those 5 to 6 stores running, with procedures and all that. And then think about if it makes sense or not. Think about franchising. My only thing with franchising is we have to find out if what we're selling, which is not coffee, we sell experience. How we gonna scale that and not lose our authenticity?
That's right.
That's my main concern.
That's right.
But before reaching that point of, okay, are we gonna franchise or not? I want to have those 5 to 6 stores running with the same procedure, having like a feeling that I'm have a good handle of what's going on with those stores. And then we'll figure it out.
That's good.
Figure out if it's scalable or not, and the way we want to do it. Right.
Well, I think you're proving it's scalable. Going from your basement to 2 stores, then 3, then goal to have 5. And I work with a lot of franchise organizations, Marillo, which is interesting. And you're right. What you had said about them keeping their identity and making sure that that the value of the organization is being preserved. And that's a big deal. What I've also found out with some of the select franchise organizations that I worked with and for, is that price isn't always the biggest concern. Like that is not, and I understand from a consumer standpoint, price is always going to be part of the conversation, but they know they're getting a value. They know they're getting something different. And as long as those things are being communicated through your brand, and that has a lot to do with brand awareness and how you're growing the organization. And like we talked a little bit earlier, the mission and your goals. But as that starts to permeate through the culture of the company, I promise you, it makes its way, to the consumer. And so that's what's really exciting. is that I've got you on this, I've got you on the Pipe podcast today, and I believe, that we're really on to something new and exciting. And I'm going to look back and say, hey, I had that guy on my podcast before he had 100 locations, before he had 120 locations throughout the US and in Brazil. So that's really exciting.
And you mentioned something, Chris, about price not being the only deciding factor, and that's I totally agree with that. Just an example, right? We in our current store right now, we have north of us, maybe 300 yards from us, we have our Starbucks there. They have a drive-through. They are Starbucks, so everyone knows who they are. And still, we're getting traffic and good traffic in our store. Our prices are not cheaper than Starbucks, and it's of course higher because for different reasons. But we're still getting a lot of traffic. We still get repeat customers and loyal customers because they understand the difference, and they value what we're doing, and they like what we're doing as well. So
that's great.
Price is not only the deciding factor for sure.
Well, yeah, and you're setting the gold standard. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but yeah, it's the absolute truth. I believe that when you find something that's unique, like Boarding Pass Coffee, and you find an organization that provides this type of service and has carved out, and I won't even say that it's a niche, because it not necessarily is a niche business. But when you've carved out the value and you're showing the value to the organization and to the individuals that you serve, then I guarantee you they see it, they taste it, right? They have an experience at drinking a cup of coffee, and it's not just to fill a need, right? And so a lot of times, and I go back to it, because there's so many things that you've talked about that align, but when I'm talking with owners, I said, well, listen, it didn't happen like this. Like the challenges that you're having in your sales department, right? That didn't happen overnight. And I promise you, I'm not going to be able to fix it overnight. Right? And they always wanted it to happen faster, right? And you probably come up with those challenges as well by being a business owner and entrepreneur. You're like, man, I want to have it happen faster. I want to have it faster. But as long as you set in those foundational pieces, you're keeping yourself and those in your team accountable for what's going to happen next. You're doing all these things, and you set in the proper process, and you really know what your goal and your mission is. Then my belief system is that if you have checked all those boxes, then you're going to be successful. And then you need to make the determination on how you're going to grow your business. Then you have the choice to do that. That's what's exciting. So good. So, hey, Marillo, it's, I know we're coming up on the hour now. I really appreciate those that are on today. I don't know if we had any other questions that came in, but I did want to go ahead and just jump into the Sales Arbiter 7, if that's okay.
Right.
So for those that have watched before, this is kind of a tribute to James Lipton. And if you know who James Lipton is, that's great. If you don't, go ahead and Google him. He was the host for a show called Inside the Actor's Studio. And he would ask every guest at the end of their time together, like a series of questions. So this is the Sales Arbiter 7. And so I'd just like to, and this is really why people watch, Marillo. They don't listen. They don't watch the show for, the little tidbits that I throw out. Sometimes they don't even watch the show for the guest that comes on. They just want to know these personal things about you, right? And so this gives our audience, our listening audience and watching, those that are watching, maybe a little glimpse into Marillo Santos that they don't already know. So let me just go ahead and start. So Marillo, what's your favorite word?
The resilience.
Resilience. I love it.
Yeah.
Why is that? Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, there's several reasons, but just to be sure, to be an entrepreneur, you gotta be resilient. There's no way, because you're gonna face so many challenges, and especially if you're a sole entrepreneur, all the challenges come to you, and you have to make decisions whether you're sticking to that, you're pivoting, or backing up, or going to plan B, C, D, or E, whatever. And if you really think that you have a good idea and a good product or a good service, you got to be resilient.
Yeah.
You're gonna face challenge every day, and you got to be resilient to keep moving forward.
I love it. Great. So, what is your least favorite word, Marillo?
Can't. There's always a way. There's always a way.
Spoken. Yep. Spoken like a true entrepreneur. There's always a way.
Yeah, there's always a way. The thing is, what is your opportunity cost? Does it make sense or not? But can't. There's always a way.
Great. I love it. What's something that could make your day?
Whenever I'm at the store and I see a returning customer, that makes my day. Like that truly makes my day. When they come back, say, I've had your coffee and I've loved it and I came back for more. I'm like, okay, we're doing something that makes sense.
That's great. That is great.
Yeah.
I love it. So what's something that could ruin your day?
Well, that's a pretty basic, but it's whenever we have like a low day of sales.
When you have a low day of sale, that's just it. That's it. I love it.
Yeah, that's pretty basic, but that's like when that happens, I'm like always trying to find like, what are we doing something? Did we do something that's not good, or is it the weather? Is it what it is?
Right.
Just trying to kind of not find someone or something to blame, but just trying to find a solution to make it get better.
That's right. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. What noise or sound do you love?
Besides the cash register that my phone app makes, besides that, I love the sound of ocean.
The ocean.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, really.
And what noise or sound do you hate?
I hate the sound of traffic.
Really?
Cars beeping. That annoys me. I think it's, especially when you're traffic and you see people just, beeping their horn, It's like, it's traffic. It's not going to happen. It's like it's physics. There's no way, it doesn't make any sense for beeping and stuff.
Right.
Just, yeah. It's a sound of impatience.
The sound of impatience. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Good. All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would say a race car driver. But I'm too tall for it. It would never happen.
You hit your head on the top of the car. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm 6'4". So like a Formula One driver, they're always like, 4 or 5 foot. It's never going to happen for me.
Yeah.
But either that or a basketball player.
There we go.
That could happen.
I love it. Marillo, thank you so much for being on the Pipe Podcast today. It means the world to me. And if you haven't tried Boarding Pass Coffee, if you look up the locations, go to the website, you're gonna love it. It's my favorite, and I think that you're doing an incredible job at building your business. And thank you for sharing, some of your tips today with us, the audience. And like I always say, I close every session this way. Keep selling and have fun doing it. Thank you so much, Marillo.
All right. Thank you.